achieved.
Holly Holm is the UFC's women's bantamweight champion. Holly Holm thoroughly defeated and knocked unconscious the former champion, and yet Holly Holm is being forced to work her schedule around Ronda Rousey, and that is simply not right. Welcome back to Kamikaze Overdrive MMA Predictions. As always, I am your host, Scott Johnson, and on this episode of the show, we're breaking down the UFC's first event in 2016. Welcome to 2016. Possibly watching this in 2015, but this event, UFC 195, will take place on January 2nd, and I will be breaking down all 5 of the main card fights, including the welterweight title fight that takes place in the main event with the champion Robbie Lawler defending against Carlos Condit, looking to maybe turn things in favor of the champions heading into 2016, following a year that saw, I believe, 7 titles changing hands, so pretty impressive, 7 or 8. Nonetheless, I'll be giving you all my preliminary predictions available at kamikazeoverdrive.net. You can also head over there, vote on who you think is going to win each fight and see who the public is backing. Check out the prediction panel, see what they have to say. Also, look at my 2015 award show. You can certainly see that and see who I gave various awards to. Also, my predictions for each division and where we're going forward, and some other predictions just pertaining to MMA in general. Very excited about this card. The bet packs will also be available. $10 for a single bet pack. I break down all the fights. I give you all kinds of prop opportunities, parlay bets. I talk about my betting scenarios, put a whole bunch of stuff together, including DraftKings teams and explanations on different fighters, why you should take them or why you should stay away as far as fantasy MMA is concerned. You can also consider buying a more long-term subscription. Buy the next 6 bet packs, so basically January and February. $45, saves you $15. It's a pretty solid investment nonetheless, as I've been having a lot of luck. I've made a few tweaks to my website, try to update it as quick, as best of my ability. But please check out my site, check out everything I have to offer. And going back to Holly Holm for a moment, it seems like the UFC is pushing her to stay out of action until UFC 200, where she'll fight Ronda Rousey, who apparently is taking some time off both to recover and do some Hollywood-related. I think she's going to do a couple of movies. That's unacceptable, especially when Holly wants to fight. She's the champion. If she wants to fight, get her a goddamn fight. Miocic Tate, more than willing to step up, wants an opportunity to fight for the title. Tate home in February would be fantastic, or March would be a great fight, and then you can still have Ronda Rousey fighting for the title against Holly Holm if that's what you want to have. And if Miocic Tate pulls off the upset, well, you've already got the built-in rivalry with Rousey coming back to face Tate. It's very interesting. Nonetheless, Daddy Dana and company are, siding with the person that they favor clearly, and not allowing this fight to take place, or not allowing Holly Holm to get some time in and get an opportunity to take advantage of being the champion. It's stupid, it's ridiculous, and it just shows why the UFC is going to struggle to be a mainstream sport. For example, if the NFL said, you know what, last year we had a fantastic Super Bowl. Obviously, this is based on the playoffs haven't started yet. We had a fantastic Super Bowl. We had the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots square off. Seattle made the Super Bowl again. New England didn't. But you know what? Sorry, I don't know, Pittsburgh Steelers, whoever makes it out of the AFC. We're going to put New England in the Super Bowl even though you earned it. We're not, it's just that ridiculous scenario where they're picking who they're going to put in that title position, despite the fact. Same thing with Frankie Edgar and Conor McGregor. Frankie should be fighting for the title next. Tell Conor to stay in that division for at least that fight. Let him fight Frankie, and then we'll go from there. Nonetheless, just frustrating for some of those people in those positions. One for the champion, one for a challenger. That's all from me. Let's get to that first prediction. The opening fight of the night takes place in the UFC's lightweight division as Abel Killa Trujillo, 12 wins, 7 losses, and 1 no contest, takes on Tony Sims with a record of 12 wins and 3 defeats. Now, taking a look here, this fight was actually a preliminary bout that got bumped up to the main card with Kelvin Gastelum having to pull out of the fight with Kyle Noke. They put this matchup, and it should be a very good fight. For Sims, this is his first time he's actually had a full camp for a UFC bout. He took his first fight on short notice, was kind of thrown together at the last second. He was an injury replacement in his second matchup, so again, first opportunity to fight with a full camp heading to the UFC. Might be a good thing, might not, we don't know yet. For Trujillo, he's coming off a very controversial loss to Gleison Tibau. He's now lost back-to-back fights and lost a lot of the steam he created with some early success in the UFC. Physically, Sims, 3 inches taller, they have the same reach, and Tony is 2 years younger. Now for Trujillo, he brings a bruising style of kind of a mix of physical wrestling. He's a former NAIA collegiate wrestler, and he's a power puncher. 5 wins by knockout. He's 3-4 in fights ended by submission, 4-2 on the scorecards. For Sims, he comes from a boxing background. 10 wins overall by knockout, 2-1 in subs, 0-2 by decisions. You see where both guys are the strongest. For Trujillo, exceptionally heavy hands, hard hooks, He uses power over efficiency when he is attacking. He's exceptionally aggressive. He closes distance very well. Throws a nice long left jab when he's looking to do that. And it really catches guys off guard with the ability how quickly he's able to come forward and do damage. When he knocked out Jamie Varner, he destroyed him with an absolutely brutal right hook. He dropped Tony Ferguson also with his right hand. He has some good knees and elbows in close and can generate a lot of power with his ground and pound. Now, you look at a lot of his fights, it's kind of one of those live by the sword, die by the sword. He throws it all out there and really goes for it. When he fought his original meeting with Roger Bowling, he was really struggling with the technicalities of Bowling striking. He was overextending and getting absolutely cracked by Bowling. Against Varner, he was getting countered a lot of times when he came forward and tried to attack, and he has a tendency to raise his chin up when he is engaging, and as he slows down, his cardio starts to give out, his hands drop, and he becomes very vulnerable on the feet. For Tony Sims, he has good hand speed and excellent footwork. That comes from that boxing background. He throws a nice left hook, and he'll move forward behind combinations. He was rocked by Steve Montgomery when they fought, but he eventually knocked him out cold with a brutal left hand, and it was just a well-executed just technique over the size and strength of Montgomery's a very big man, had a long reach advantage on Sims. They were actually fighting at welterweight, and it was really the technique of Sims that got the job done there. What we did see from Sims in this last fight was he really struggled with the grappling of Olivier Aubin-Mercier, which was really a shortcoming in his game that Trujillo could look to exploit. One thing with Trujillo, though, when you look at his striking, though, he tends to overextend, as I said, but his aggression, power, and wrestling are posing massive issues in this fight. They could be big-time factors. On the other side, Sims, much more technical. I think he should be able to counter the aggression and move away from some of that forward pressure that Trujillo presents. And Trujillo, as he starts doing more swinging and missing, he slows down quicker. I think if Abel can't finish this fight early, I think Sims' style and technical approach is more conducive to longer fights. Even though he has 8 of his 12 wins have come inside the first round, also keep in mind, there seems to be some issues with the Blackzilian camp. Is it closing down? We've heard about that in the media a little bit. Could that impact Trujillo's preparation or mental focus? That's a big issue here. I think Sims remains technical, survives the early onslaught, or possibly catches Abel coming forward and really turns Abel's forward pressure into, to increase the impact of Tony Sims' counter. And my prediction is Tony Sims to defeat Abel Trujillo by knockout. Fight number 2 in the main card takes place in the UFC featherweight division. As Ultimate Fighter winner Thiago Brandao of Brazil, with a record of 24 wins and 10 losses, takes on T-City undefeated Brian Ortega with a record of 9 wins, no losses, and 1 no contest. Now, this fight was originally scheduled to take place in mid-2014. Ultimately, some injuries forced it to this position. Now, still an exciting opportunity for both of these guys. For Ortega, as he said, he's undefeated, coming off a very crazy come-from-behind victory over a solid veteran in Thiago Tavares, in a fight where Ortega spent most of the matchup on his back, but he forced Thiago to work exceptionally hard, exhausted him, actually opened a massive cut, eventually hurt him on the feet, and finished him late in that fight. I think very late, in the last 50 seconds, ultimately picking up the first TKO victory of his career. For Thiago Brandao, he's kind of found his groove again. 2 straight victories, both by first-round knockout. They come on the heels of back-to-back first-round TKO losses to Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. Physically, Ortega 1 inch taller, 1 inch reach advantage. He is 4 years younger. Now, the American is a BJJ black belt. I believe he trains out of Team Blackhouse at times. He has 4 wins by submission, a very talented grappler. 3 of those wins have come by triangle choke. He also has 1 rear naked choke on his record. Plus, in his UFC debut, he won by rear naked choke before it was wiped out and turned into no contest. He's gone to decision 4 times in his other victories. Brandao, also BJJ black belt, a very capable grappler, but he has 11 wins by knockout. So, very capable knockout, striker. 5 wins by submission, 4-3 on the scorecards. 1 submission loss, but the big number for Thiago, he has been knocked out 6 times on his career. When you look at some of those recent knockouts, again, against McGregor, against Poirier, top-level competition, his only other UFC loss came against Darren Elkins, where he nearly stopped Elkins in the opening round, gassed himself out, and Elkins just ground him down for the next 2 rounds to pick up a decision. When you look at Ortega, in his fight with Thiago Tavares, a very interesting matchup, something you don't see very often. Like I said, he was taken down repeatedly, very active off his back. Right off the bat, he locked up a quick armbar, forced Thiago to work, transition to a triangle, eventually swept the top position. He's exceptionally fluid on the mat, doesn't use a lot of energy. He landed some big elbows and landed some nice strikes off his back, but he tends, fighting from that position is not a good thing. He was losing position at times, going for submissions, and in the second round especially, he got pounded on when Tavares was able to mount him and land some big shots. I think Ortega's a little bit too comfortable off his back. Despite landing strikes, despite attacking, it's hard to win a fight from that position if you don't get something significant like he did late in that matchup. But the thing I look at in that fight was Tavares. The big mistake was that he took Ortega down. He had a perceived striking advantage, and while Ortega appears to have cleaned up his striking, he threw his nice spinning back fist, hurt him on the feet ultimately. his grappling is his forte, and that's something that Diego Brandao needs to focus on. For Brandao, he's an exceptionally talented grappler in his own right. When he fought Jimmy Hedges, a very good judo player, he got his back. He threatened with an arm triangle position, a submission he really likes and has used prior victories. When Hedges took him down, Brandao got up very quickly. We did see Diego get swept once, but again, right away, attack with a heel hook back to his feet. So he's a very capable grappler, both offensively and defensively. I think in this matchup, he should consider using his grappling defensively to keep Ortega from using his strongest asset. When Diego, he's an aggressive fighter, but he needs to fight at his own pace. He has good striking. We saw him against Kinkanur land a big overhand right and eventually swarmed him. Again, he was known for his grappling prior to The Ultimate Fighter where he started knocking guys out. But I think he's a little bit more known for the fact that he's mentally a little bit weak at times. His cardio is a huge concern, though. He has 6 of his last 9 wins have come in the first round. He beat Daniel Pineda over a 3-round fight because both guys gassed out. And again, he almost finished Elkins, they talked about, and then lost the last 2 rounds. If he gets pushed or if he goes for it early and doesn't get it, that's a massive issue for him. I think the Jimmy Hedges fight could have been interesting had Hedges been allowed to continue out of the first round. The doctor hadn't shut it down. I thought Brandao was getting dragged into a grappling exchanges, which were ultimately going to catch up with him. Diego got the better of round 1, but I think it would have been played out a little bit differently in rounds 2 and 3. I think when you look at Ortega, he is so active off his back. He's going to make Diego Brandao work exceptionally hard. He's going to wear him down. He'll land strikes from the bottom. I think we see him start breaking Diego down. I think Brandao can win the first round, but I think he gets tired. He becomes less explosive, less able to defend the grappling exchanges, and eventually Ortega gets him on the mat, and my prediction is Brian Ortega to defeat Diego Brandao by TKO. Fight number 3 on the main card takes place in the welterweight division with Lorenz, the Monsoon Larkin. 16 wins, 4 losses, and 1 no contest. Takes on Albert Einstein Tumenov, the current record of 16 wins and 2 defeats. Now, these are 2 welterweights that are certainly flying under the radar, but climbing at the same time. And I think a win here gets them shot at possibly a top 15 guy, more likely a top 10 opponent, as these guys are both doing exceptionally well, and they're exciting fighters, when they are having success. Now, for Larkin, he has reinvented himself again. He initially cut from light heavyweight to middleweight, where he beat Robbie Lawler, the current welterweight champion, which is something to keep our eyes on there. He had some success at middleweight, but again began to falter. Has cut down to welterweight now, where a lot of people had doubts, including myself, but he is 2-0 since cutting down. For Tumenov, he came in with a lot of hype, but he had a rough start losing to Ildemar Alcantara in his debut. Since then, 4-0 with 3 first-round knockouts and a strong decision win over a very talented Nico Miocic. Both guys are 5'11". Tumenov will have a 1-inch reach advantage, and he's the younger man by 5 years. Looking at the Russian first, 11 wins by knockout. He's 5-2 in the scorecards. He's a national master of sports in boxing, so a very capable striker, and the 11 knockouts are, the proof is in the pudding there. For Larkin, he comes from a kickboxing background, but he's also a BJ purple belt. 10 wins by knockout, 6-3 in the scorecards, and he has been knocked out once in his career. It was by Costa Philippou. So that's worth keeping in mind as well. Statistically, both guys average over 3 strikes landed per minute, so it should be an action fight. Tumenov, though, has a slight edge by about 0.6 strikes offensively, 0.6 strikes per minute, but he gets hit at 1.1 strikes more per minute, so, Larkin a little bit better defensively. For Tumenov, he has a very nice spearing left jab. He likes to stand in the pocket and fire hard, combinations, 2-3 strike combinations. He has very fast hands. He has a lot of power coming from the left side, both with his leg kicks and his left hand. When he fought Nico Miocic, one of the most telling things of that matchup was the impact of his strikes. He was doing a lot of damage whenever he hit Nico. He mixes up his counters and attacks exceptionally well, and he really likes to catch that body kick and then fire back a counter right hand, which is a nice technique, and it could show up here against Lorenz Larkin, who really likes to mix in those kicks to the midsection. When Tumenov fought Dwyer, he hit him with a brutal high left kick, landed a second that ultimately knocked him out, one of his best techniques. But against Alan Jouban, he started the end of that matchup with a big right kick that Jouban partially blocked, got his guard up, but it still rung his bell enough that Tumenov was able to swarm him and put him down shortly thereafter. His leg kicks are lethal. He's a very dangerous fighter. But Lorenz Larkin equally is dangerous. We've seen him at welterweight as a striker, much more active offensively. Quicker as a welterweight, he appears to be with cutting down and leaning himself out, which is definitely a benefit. John Howard, who just got knocked out by Tim Means. But when Larkin knocked him out, it was very impressive. He hurt him with a quick, straight right hand, swarmed him for the eventual finish. He throws a nice check left hook. He will also counter with it. He throws some very hard low kicks. When against Santanigo Ponzinibbio, again, I always massacre that name, he was taking away his movement and his spring with those low kicks, which was really a nice technique to see him throw. And that push kick is something else that can be very effective. But again, he needs to watch Tumenov, who again likes to catch those kicks and land counters. When when he knocked out Santiago in his last match, he was showing some big left and right hook combinations really coming through there, which, ultimately put him down. When you look at Larkin, though, at middleweight, he had a lot of issues with pulling the trigger. And he was, when he fought Costa Philipp, who was a boxer, he was getting backed up routinely. And eventually a left hook, straight right combination put him down. And he, we also saw it with Santiago. He was backing him up, especially in the second before the knockout. He was backing him up. He was landing some big shots against Larkin, who appeared to get stunned a little bit. Larkin, he's not the same fighter offensively when he's getting stalked. John Howard tends to sit back a little bit, and that gave Larkin the ability to unload. That's not something that we're going to see out in this fight with Tumenov, who likes to come forward and be exceptionally aggressive. I think Tumenov hits very hard. He has the ability to counter kicks with those huge punches, both when he catches the kick and when with not. Watch for those leg kicks as well. I think the Russian eventually corners Larkin along the cage, cuts it off very nicely, lands combinations, possibly one of those head kicks. And my prediction is Albert Tumenov to defeat Lorenz Larkin by knockout in a fight that's going to be fantastic. Tumenov by knockout. In the co-main event of the evening, it's in the UFC's heavyweight division and features two top-ranked fighters as the number 3 ranked Stipe Miocic with 13 wins and 2 losses takes on the number 2 ranked former heavyweight champion Andrei the Pitbull Arlovski with a current record of 12 wins, 10 losses, and 1 no contest. Now, this is a big fight for both men, as the winner could be headed towards a title shot or at the very least a number 1 contender's opportunity. I think a title shot certainly could be in the works, but with Overeem's recent success against Junior Dos Santos, he could have jumped the line there. For Stipe, he has only lost his last 5 came against Junior Dos Santos in a fight that I had him possibly winning. It was very close nonetheless. For Arlovski, he has won 6 overall, 6 in a row, dating back to his loss against Rumble Johnson. Though in this current winning streak, he's had a couple of poor performances in his UFC re-debut against Brendan Schaub and against Frank Mir. So those, he got the victory, but they weren't fights you really, you look at and say that guy's a title contender. Nonetheless, a victory is a victory. For Stipe, he's 1 inch taller. He'll have a 3-inch reach advantage. Roughly the same weight. Should come in physically, same size approximately. 3 years younger, though, for Miocic. Stipe comes in with 9 wins by knockout, 4 in the UFC. He's 3-1 on the scorecards. He has a boxing background and an NCAA Division I wrestler. I believe he was a Golden Gloves champion, so a very well-diversified offensive attack. For Arlovski, 17 wins by knockout, 3-0 in fights ended by submission, 5-3 in the scorecards. BJJ Blue Belt, Master of Sambo. Very capable striker, good boxing background, also a very good grappler. The big number with Andrei Arlovski we always have to touch upon is his 7 losses by knockout. I always talk about this and people probably get tired of it. But his last one came in 2011 against Sergei Haratonov. Since then, he's gone 12 fights in a row without getting knocked out. He was dropped by Rumble. Nonetheless, it appears he's at least cleaned up. You can't improve your chin, but he's maybe tightened up some of those defensive issues that have cost him in the past. And that's that's a big thing you need to do. When you look at the way Arlovski's last couple fights have gone, outside of the Travis Brown matchup, his other 3 UFC wins came over opponents that either didn't get the opportunity or simply didn't push the pace. Frank Mir, kind of stood back and they traded, but Arlovski really wasn't put under a lot of pressure. Same with Brendan Schaub. It made for really boring fights. Travis Brown did push the pace. Arlovski hurt him, but Brown also hurt Arlovski, and you wonder if that's something that's not in the minds of Arlovski, especially going into the Mir fight. I got tagged, certainly got hurt. It could cost me, a shot at the title here. For Stipe, he's developed a very well-rounded attack, integrating both his wrestling and striking. He landed 6 takedowns against Mark Hunt. Overall, he put together 113 significant strikes in that fight, some on the ground, some standing. He landed 89 against Junior Dos Santos, primarily standing, and 106 against Roy Nelson. So those are big numbers for a heavyweight. On the mat, he remains very active. He earned stoppages over Hunt and Shane Del Rosario, rest in peace, from top position. He keeps, when he's striking, though, he keeps his boxing very tight and calculated. Good footwork to avoid pressure, quick combinations. Early in that matchup against Junior, he was beating to the punch routinely, so throwing big overhand stuff, just quick combos. Obviously, when he gets tired, his technique all fades, as does with most guys. For Arlovski, very good takedown defense. Was taken down once by Brandon Schaub and Frank Mir. He should be able to stuff the majority of Stipe's attempts to take the fight to the ground. When you look at Arlovski, he's improved his striking of late. He's a very good boxer nonetheless, but I guess defensively he's tightened things up as I suggested. But he has had issues in big fights under big pressure. Again, not pushing the pace. In his debut against Frank Mir as well, he just didn't seem to unload and look as aggressive. It would appear, though, when he does push the pace and does engage, he's very effective. Against Brandon Schaub, he only landed 12 significant strikes. That's certainly a concerning number. Offensively, when he left jab, he paused it out there. Nice power right, mixes in a quick uppercut. He hurt Brown with a spinning back fist. After initially throwing, it was kind of one of those like, oh, I'm just going to keep flailing until something connects. Against Brown, he also landed a nice counter uppercut on a level change, throws flurries. Didn't burn himself out in that matchup. He was kind of composed and pulled back, but ultimately got tagged eventually. I think in this fight, Arlovski simply isn't active enough in the striking exchanges unless he really hurts somebody where he opens up against Brown, Bigfoot against Brown. He tends to get stuck at range and really looking, failing to pull that trigger. Stipe's only been knocked out once in his career against Stefan Struve. It certainly could happen. I think Stipe can match Andrei with the boxing. He's more active, though. He'll mix in his wrestling. Even if he doesn't land takedowns, it'll serve as a distraction. And I think eventually Stipe lands something, brings back those issues. I've been talking about this for a while, but my prediction is Stipe Miocic to defeat Andrei Arlovski by knockout. It is time now for our first main event of the year. The UFC 195 main event will feature the welterweight champion, the ruthless one, Robbie Lawler, 26 wins, 10 losses, and 1 no contest, defending his title against the number 4 ranked fighter in the division, the natural-born killer, Carlos Condit, with a record of 30 wins, 8 losses. He's the former interim champion, former WEC champion. For Condit, a lot of people pulled into question why he actually got this opportunity to fight for the title. He lost to Tyron Woodley. He's 2-3 overall in his last 5 matchups. He's had long periods of inactivity. He came back, beat Thiago Alves, and then ultimately got a shot at the title. A lot of people are saying there are some more deserving people in the division, especially Johnny Hendricks. I don't think people are clamoring for that rematch just yet. Nonetheless, it could happen. But, you can see what people are talking about with Carlos Condit. For Robbie Lawler, he had 3 fights in 2013, 4 in 2014. Only fought once in 2015, though, so it's certainly his least active year in a number of years. He's been through a lot of wars. Since his original fight with Rory McDonald, he's fought 26 rounds. So he's fought in deep, long, drawn-out battles. So taking a lot of time off in 2015 probably was a good thing for the champion. Especially when you look at the caliber of people that he's fought. Actually, both guys have fought. For Robbie Lawler, he's fought the number 1 guy twice, the number 3 guy twice. He's also fought the number 6 guy in the division, and he's gone 4-1 in those matchups. For Carlos Condit, you look at this, he's fought the number 1 guy, the number 2 guy, the number 3 guy, the number 7 guy, the number 15 guy, and he went 3-2 in that stretch. Plus, he's fought Nick Diaz and George St. Pierre. That's a pretty impressive number of fighters on both guys' records. They have 3 common opponents overall. Some of the fighters I just mentioned, Rory McDonald, Johnny Hendricks, and Jake Ellenberger being the other one. Lawler's 4-1 in those fights, Condit 3-1. They've had a lot of success against similar opposition. Now, this could be the last opportunity for Carlos Condit to fight for the title. He did beat Nick Diaz to win the interim belt. He lost to George St. Pierre. I think he'll remain relevant, especially as the champion changes, because he's that type of fighter whose style usually brings good fights. The Nick Diaz matchup removed. Nonetheless, this is a big pressure opportunity for a pressure situation for Condit. Both guys have big finishing capabilities. Lawler, 20 of 26 wins by knockout, 1-5 in submissions, 5-4 on the scorecards. Condit, 15-1 in fights ended by knockout, with his only actual knockout loss coming via injury. 13-3 in fights ended by submission, 2-4 on the scorecards. Lawler, against Johnny Hendricks, he came out exceptionally aggressive, and I think it cost him later on. By comparison against Matt Brown, he was much more comfortable, smooth, more calculated in that matchup when he came out. I think it had a lot to do with no takedown threats, so that Brown wasn't looking for takedowns, at least Lawler wasn't as concerned. Even more calculated against Rory McDonald in the second matchup. I would think his approach against Brown and McDonald will be what we'll see against Condit. Not afraid of being taken down. He's not looking to come out and really blitz a guy and put him on their back foot. He's going to try and be calculated, not give many openings, and that's the way I look for Robbie to start this fight. Lawler has shown exceptional ability. He's very tough, ability to rebound, dig deep, and when others wilt, he comes forward and does exceptionally well. He landed that big straight left to bust Rory's nose and finish him in the 5th round of a grueling matchup. When Johnny Hendricks started to fade, he really opened up and put it on him efficiently, effectively. But looking at Carlos Condit, he has excellent cardio. He can maintain his pace for a very long fight. He's very tough. He's very durable. He's been hurt, but he usually finds a way to rally. Now, when you look at some of his losses have come against fighters who are able to put up big takedown numbers. And that's been the key to beating him. Johnny Hendricks landed 12 takedowns. George St. Pierre 7. Martin Kampmann in 2 fights landed a combined 11 takedowns. Rory landed 3 in their first matchup. Tyron Woodley landed 3. You kind of see a pattern there. For Condit, against Hendricks, he was having a lot of success backing him up, but ultimately Hendricks countered that success with his wrestling, and that really nullified it. The question here is, can Robbie use his wrestling? He's got a wrestling background. He's a capable wrestler. We've seen it a little bit, but he doesn't have big wrestling numbers. He landed 2 against Brown, 1 against Bobby Volker, and that's pretty much it. And the way I look at it is that approach is going to take him out of his comfort zone, and Condit has a very active guard, something you don't want to mess with. When you look at Robbie, though, on the feet, he was landing hard combinations when he's striking. That's where he wants to be in this matchup. He looked exceptionally fluid. He was doing damage. He was very aggressive against Matt Brown. He landed that beautiful head kick against Bobby Volker. That's where he wants to be, and so I don't think he'll come out and look to wrestle Condit consistently or at all. On the negative side with Robbie, he tends to shell up a little bit, try to roll with the punch a little bit too much, especially against Johnny Hendricks. He has some issues with Hendricks unloading with combinations, but were scoring big with both the impact and with the judges. He got hurt by a Matt Brown combination as well. Rory McDonald had a lot of success battering him along the cage. He was able to back him up and start unloading with 3-4 punch combinations, mixing in his kicks. That's something you want to be wary of against Carlos Condit. Condit knows how to deal with this pressure. We saw him do it against Johnny Hendricks, who came forward and tried to swarm him. Look for a counter knee if Robbie tries to do something like that. But what I like with Condit, he throws good combinations. He mixes up his strikes exceptionally well. Kicks and punches. Throws knees or kicks and then comes with a 2-3 punch combination. He will use his punches to set up his kicks. He will use his kicks to set up his punches. He never just throws single shots, or not that often. When he dropped George St. Pierre, he disguised that head kick. No one saw it coming, including George. He throws nice low kicks, body and front kicks. He'll throw knees in the clinch and a stepping range, very similar to Donald Cerrone. Spinning elbows. Nice level trajectory elbows in close. He knocked out Alvarez with a quick combination. He's very lethal and uses all his weapons, like Robbie Lawler does, all his weapons exceptionally effectively. I do give Condit the edge with his kicking. I also like the way Condit slips his head offline when he attacks. He does get hit, but not. I think he lessens the impact of those blows. He gets hit on average 1.1 strikes less per minute than Robbie Lawler, and that's significant. He is the more diversified striker, the same work rate roughly. But I like the way Condit's able to fight deeper into matchups and more consistently without having to burst and then pull back. I also think the kicks and the distance management of Carlos Condit are going to be significant in this fight. Lawler has massive power. He's been through wars. Could they be catching up with him? We also have to wonder about the injury of Condit. I think Lawler starts strong in this matchup, might land a couple of takedowns, might land some big shots, but I think Condit forces him to work, starts to connect with his kicks, starts to find his range with his boxing, with his combinations, keeps Lawler a little bit on the outside. Doesn't let Lawler rest, especially if Robbie tries to take off a couple of rounds. I think we're going to see Carlos really go after him in those rounds and really exhaust him, pour on the pace. Condit's cardio is a little bit better. It's better than Johnny Hendricks. It's better than Lawler's. It's certainly better than Johnny Hendricks, and I think he deals and limits the damage taken much better than Rory McDonald. Two of the main reasons Robbie was able to win those fights. I think Condit wears him down, lands something big, possibly a head kick or some elbows and knees in close, and my prediction is Carlos Condit to defeat Robbie Lawler by TKO. So those are my 5 main card predictions for UFC 195. All of my preliminary predictions, as always, will be available at kamikazeoverdrive.net. So please check them out. Consider buying the bet packs. You can, obviously I have good shows. Obviously I have bad shows, but the plan is to have those good ones far outweigh the bad ones. And the more information you can have, the better. And they're only $10. I've been on sites, they charge you $50 for a bet pack, and they give you 4 bets. So here are your 4 bets for the evening. Thanks for your $50. I give you $10 and break in every fight. I have no problem saying don't bet on this fight. Here, bet on this one. At the last show, I didn't do very well, but I had a parlay that cashed 117 units. That's massive. That's a pretty good return, and I'm not charging you $50. You can get my next 2 months for $45. I think that's a good selling point. Nonetheless, I put in a lot of work. Hopefully, it returns the rewards. As always, thank you for tuning in. 2016 should be a good year. I'm very much looking forward to this card. Make sure you follow me. Sign up for my YouTube channel. Follow me on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter. I'm getting much more active with my Twitter account. And feel free to comment, email me. All my information is on the website, so please check that out. And very good card. I'm looking forward to it. And as always, I will see you guys after the bell. Take care and talk soon.